Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the engine. Everyone loves the feeling of motivation until it disappears. Motivation makes you start. Discipline makes you finish. The world is full of people who were motivated once, but discipline separates the dreamers from the doers. Motivation depends on emotion. Discipline depends on decision. Every time you move without feeling ready, you build discipline. Every time you keep going when it's boring, you build character. Every time you stay consistent when no one's watching, you build power. This audiobook is your guide to that power, the kind that doesn't fade when you're tired. The kind that doesn't need hype, music, or inspiration to act. Because motivation burns out. Discipline never does. Welcome to Discipline Over Motivation, the rule that changes everything. Chapter 1. Stop waiting to feel ready. Most people waste years waiting for the perfect moment to begin. They wait for the spark, the feeling, the rush of motivation that tells them they're ready. But that feeling rarely comes, and when it does, it fades just as fast. You've seen it happen. A burst of energy, a new goal, a fresh start, and within days, maybe even hours, it disappears. That's because motivation is emotional. It's unstable. It depends on mood, energy, weather, sleep, and circumstance. You can't build consistency on something that unpredictable. The truth is simple. If you wait to feel ready, you'll wait forever. The people who win in life don't wait for motivation. They act without it. They understand that discipline isn't emotional, it's directional. It's a decision, not a feeling. You wake up, you do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. That's how progress is built. That's how momentum starts. Because action creates momentum. And momentum creates motivation. The secret isn't in waiting for the right mindset. It's in moving before the mindset arrives. You start small, but you start now. Think about how a rocket launches. Most of its fuel is burned just getting off the ground. That's what starting feels like. Heavy, resistant, uncomfortable. But once it breaks free from gravity, momentum takes over. Action works the same way. The hardest part is the first step, but once you move, the resistance weakens. You begin to see progress, even if it's small. That progress fuels your drive. Suddenly, you're not chasing motivation, you're creating it. You'll notice something powerful when you stop waiting and start doing. You'll stop relying on energy and start relying on structure. You'll stop chasing moods and start building systems. The gym becomes part of your schedule, not an emotional decision. Writing, studying, building, creating, it all becomes routine, not negotiation. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like it?" You simply do it. That's what separates the disciplined from the distracted. The truth is, every successful person you admire has mastered this rule. Athletes train on tired days. Entrepreneurs work when they're uninspired. Writers write when they don't feel creative. Because they've built a habit stronger than their feelings. They don't wait for perfect timing, they create it. Every action, no matter how small, builds internal proof that you are capable. And that proof becomes confidence. Confidence becomes clarity. And clarity becomes consistency. When you rely on motivation, your performance is unpredictable. Some days you feel unstoppable. Others you can't even move. But when you build discipline, your actions become automatic. You don't depend on willpower. You depend on systems. You don't rise and fall with emotion, you rise with structure. The disciplined mind understands one rule. You don't have to feel good to do good. You don't have to be motivated to be consistent. You just have to begin. This is where most people get stuck. They believe starting small means thinking small. But in reality, every empire begins with a single brick. Every transformation begins with a single choice. The secret is consistency, not intensity. Anyone can go hard for a day, the discipline goes steady for years. You don't need to sprint, you need to show up. You don't need to do everything, you just need to do something, every day. That's how the unmotivated become unstoppable. Discipline isn't glamorous. It doesn't feel exciting. It's repetitive, often boring, and relentlessly simple. But that's why it works. Because while most people are waiting to feel right, the disciplined are moving forward. While others are busy making plans, the disciplined are executing them. While others talk about potential, the disciplined build it. You don't need fireworks, you need follow-through. You don't need passion, you need process. The quiet consistency that nobody sees is what builds the life everyone wants. Remember this: motivation fades but motion compounds. Every small step, every repeated effort, every act done without excitement builds internal momentum. And once that momentum begins, it becomes your engine. That's how you start to crave the process itself. You stop needing motivation because discipline starts to feel like freedom. It gives structure to your chaos and direction to your energy. It teaches you that your emotions don't decide your future, your actions do. The biggest lie people believe is that they need to be inspired to start. But it's the opposite. You start first and the inspiration follows. You move, then clarity appears. You build, then belief grows. This is how progress actually happens. Not from motivation but from movement. Waiting for the right time is just fear disguised as logic. Waiting to feel ready is your comfort zone's clever trap. But readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. You decide you're ready when you start. Every time you take action without motivation, you rewire your mind. You train it to stop seeking comfort and start seeking progress. You prove to yourself that you can move through resistance, not around it. That's how mental toughness is built, through repetition, not inspiration. Discipline becomes a muscle. And like any muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. You'll begin to rely less on fleeting bursts of motivation and more on the quiet force of consistency. This is the foundation of everything you want to build. You don't need a perfect plan or the right mindset or the ideal moment. You need to start now, imperfectly, consistently, relentlessly. Because each day you act without motivation, you strengthen your discipline. And each day your discipline grows, your results multiply. You become the kind of person who doesn't depend on moods to move. You depend on mission. You don't chase inspiration, you embody it. So when your mind tells you to wait, move anyway. When it says you're not ready, act anyway. When it tells you to rest, remind yourself you've rested long enough. The world doesn't reward potential, it rewards execution. You're not defined by how motivated you feel, but by how consistent you are when you don't. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates motivation. Waiting kills it. The moment you stop waiting to feel ready is the moment your life begins to shift. Because you finally understand what separates dreamers from doers. Dreamers wait for the right time. Doers create it. Dreamers talk about change. Doers make it happen. The discipline don't wait to feel like it. They move and the feeling follows. That's how you win. That's how you build. That's how you change everything. Chapter 2. Discipline is a muscle. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's not a talent, not a gift, not something only a few people have. It's a muscle. And like every muscle, it grows through resistance. The harder it feels, the stronger it becomes. Most people mistake struggle for weakness, but in reality, struggle is the gym where discipline is trained. Every time you face discomfort and keep moving forward, you're doing a mental rep. Every time you choose consistency over convenience, you're building strength. Discipline doesn't appear overnight. It's built through deliberate repetition. Think about how you train your body. You don't lift one weight and expect transformation. You show up even when it hurts. You tear, repair, and repeat. The same rule applies to the mind. Discipline grows through friction, through the moments you want to quit but don't. Every time you resist distraction, every time you show up tired, every time you act when it's easier to delay, you're training your mental muscle. Stress it, rest it, repeat it. That's how growth happens. That's how resilience is forged. The problem is, most people treat discipline like emotion. They wait to feel it. But discipline isn't about feeling, it's about following through. When you see someone consistent, understand this. They've trained their discipline muscle longer than you have. They weren't born with willpower, they built it through repetition, through failure, through showing up when it didn't make sense. The brain, just like the body, adapts to what you repeatedly do. The more you practice self-control, the more natural it becomes. What once required force becomes automatic. At first it's hard. Waking up early hurts. Staying focused feels like a battle. Doing the work when you're exhausted feels impossible. But that's the resistance phase, the same one that causes muscles to grow. You push against comfort and comfort pushes back. That tension is the training ground of champions. Every repetition counts. Every hard choice compounds. Over time, you realize the pain of discipline is far lighter than the pain of regret. People often say, "I wish I had more self-control." But control isn't found, it's built through conditioning. You condition your responses by choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. You condition your habits by showing up no matter what. You condition your mind by proving to yourself that you can survive discomfort. This is the truth. Discipline is a daily decision, not a one-time achievement. You don't master it, you maintain it. Discipline is the process of rewiring your brain to prioritize growth over comfort. Your mind will resist because it's designed to protect you from pain. But growth doesn't live in comfort, it lives just outside of it. That's where discipline is born. When you push through that first wave of resistance, the voice that says, "Skip it, rest, you deserve a break," you teach your brain a new rule: we move anyway. That's when you shift from being emotionally driven to mission-driven. It's no different from training in the gym. When you lift weights, your muscles break down first. Then they rebuild stronger. Discipline works the same way. The first few weeks of any new habit, waking early, studying daily, exercising, meditating, feel like war. That's your old self fighting for control. But the more you push, the quieter that voice becomes. Soon, the things that once drained you will define you. The routine that once felt heavy will start to feel like home. The key is consistency, not intensity. One hard day won't change you, but 100 consistent days will. The disciplined mind understands this. It's not about doing more, it's about showing up again. Every repetition reinforces your identity. Each time you choose to stay consistent, you're telling yourself, "This is who I am now." That's how transformation sticks, not through bursts of effort, but through unwavering repetition. You won't always feel progress right away. Sometimes it'll seem like nothing is changing. But underneath the surface, your mental muscle is thickening. Your tolerance for discomfort is rising. Your ability to stay calm under pressure is improving. You'll start to notice it in small moments: the way you handle stress, the way you stay focused when others get distracted, the way you keep moving when others quit. That's the invisible strength of discipline revealing itself. Discipline doesn't get easier, you get stronger. The resistance never disappears, you just become more capable of carrying it. The habits that once took effort become part of who you are. That's when you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking, "Should I?" and start saying, "I will." You stop relying on motivation because the muscle of discipline does the heavy lifting for you. It becomes your default response. You'll start noticing something powerful. When your discipline grows, your life simplifies. You spend less time overthinking and more time executing. You stop chasing quick results and start trusting long processes. You stop seeking validation and start respecting consistency. The noise fades, the chaos shrinks, and your focus sharpens. That's what happens when the muscle of discipline matures. It creates order in every area of your life. But remember, even strong muscles weaken if they're not used. The same goes for discipline. The moment you stop training it, it begins to fade. That's why daily practice matters. Discipline isn't something you do when it's convenient, it's something you maintain when it's not. Each day is another rep. Each decision is another set. Each act of resistance builds endurance. So when you feel the urge to quit, remind yourself, this is the rep that counts. When it feels heavy, when it feels pointless, when it feels exhausting, that's the exact moment you're growing. That's when the weak quit and the strong evolve. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep training. Train the mind like a muscle. Stress, rest, repeat. You don't find discipline, you build it. And once it's built, it builds everything else. Chapter 3. Motivation is emotion. Discipline is identity. Motivation is temporary emotion. Discipline is permanent identity. Motivation is a spark. It burns bright, it feels powerful, it makes you move fast. But emotion fades. The same energy that excites you today will abandon you tomorrow. Discipline, on the other hand, is the flame that never dies. It's not dependent on excitement. It's built on commitment. When motivation fails, identity takes over. Real transformation begins when you stop chasing the feeling of motivation and start becoming the person who acts without it. You see, motivation says, "I'll do it when I feel like it." Discipline says, "I'll do it because it needs to be done." That's the difference between emotion and identity. Emotion changes with mood. Identity stays rooted in values. The strongest people don't wake up motivated every day. They wake up disciplined because their actions are no longer negotiable. They've decided who they are, and their behavior follows that decision. Think about it. How many times have you started something because you felt inspired, only to quit when that feeling disappeared? That's the trap of motivation. It's a wave, it rises and crashes. Discipline is the ocean, it's always there. When you build your life around emotion, you'll always be chasing peaks and running from valleys. But when you build it on identity, your foundation doesn't move. No matter how you feel, you stay grounded. Transformation doesn't happen in the moments you're excited. It happens in the moments you're exhausted. When you do what's right even when it feels wrong, that's identity forming. That's when you start to realize this truth. You don't need to feel inspired to stay consistent. You just need to decide who you are. The identity of a disciplined person is built on one principle: I do it anyway. Whether tired or ready, happy or hurt, motivated or not, you do it anyway. The reason most people never change is because they're chasing emotion instead of embodying identity. They say, I'll try to be consistent. But trying is emotional, it leaves room for escape. The disciplined mind says, I am consistent. It's not an action anymore, it's a definition. You don't have to try to be who you are, you just act in alignment with it. That's the power of identity-based discipline. It removes negotiation. It removes excuses. It makes consistency automatic. Real-world performers understand this. Athletes don't rely on how they feel before a game. Soldiers don't wait to be motivated before they train. Surgeons don't need excitement before stepping into the operating room. They perform because it's who they are. Their identity drives their action. Emotion might fluctuate, but identity remains firm. That's why they succeed where others collapse. Because they've trained themselves to act from commitment, not from mood. The moment you start saying, I am disciplined, everything shifts. You're no longer forcing yourself to do hard things, you're confirming who you already are. You're not dragging yourself through discomfort, you're walking in alignment with your standard. Motivation pulls you when it's convenient. Identity carries you when it's not. That's why the most successful people in the world seem unshakable. They're not waiting to feel right. They've programmed themselves to do what's right. Every time you act in alignment with your identity, you reinforce it. Every disciplined choice rewires your brain. When you show up for your commitments, you're teaching your mind, this is who I am now. Over time, that becomes truth. You no longer need pep talks or hype videos to move. You've built the reflex of responsibility. Your actions become automatic, your discipline becomes effortless, and your confidence becomes unshakable. And the beauty of discipline-based identity is that it simplifies your life. When you live by feelings, every day is a debate. Should I do it? Do I feel like it? Maybe tomorrow. But when you live by identity, the debate ends. You've already decided. You act not because you feel ready, but because you've accepted that this is who you are. That kind of clarity eliminates hesitation. It eliminates procrastination. It creates peace of mind because you no longer have to wrestle with indecision. Let's be honest, motivation will always betray you at the worst times. When you're tired, when you're stressed, when you've failed. Emotion will tell you to stop. But identity whispers, keep going. Discipline doesn't care how you feel, it cares what you've committed to. That's why emotionally driven people burn out, while identity-driven people burn through. They keep showing up long after others quit because showing up is simply part of who they are. The transformation happens quietly. One day you realize you're no longer forcing yourself. You've become the person who does it by default. The gym, the work, the study, the grind, it's no longer an obligation, it's your expression. That's when you've transcended motivation. That's when discipline becomes your DNA. Stop chasing feelings. Start becoming the person who acts without them. Because the truth is, you don't rise to the level of motivation, you fall to the level of your identity. Build one that doesn't depend on inspiration. Build one that doesn't need hype. Build one that simply shows up. When motivation fades, and it will, your identity remains. Motivation is temporary emotion. Discipline is permanent identity. One fades when life gets hard, the other hardens when life fades. You don't have to feel ready when you already know who you are. So from this moment forward, stop waiting to feel inspired, stop chasing emotional highs, and start declaring your identity. Say it, believe it, live it. I am disciplined. I do what needs to be done, no matter how I feel. Because in the end, it's not motivation that changes your life, it's identity that sustains it. Chapter 4. Routine beats inspiration. A solid routine kills excuses. It gives you direction when your feelings are unstable. The most disciplined people don't rely on mood, they rely on structure. Because routine doesn't ask you how you feel. It simply demands that you show up. And when you keep showing up, even on the days you don't feel like it, something changes inside you. You stop being a slave to emotion and start becoming a master of execution. Everyone loves to talk about inspiration. The lightning bolt moment, the sudden burst of motivation that makes everything feel possible. But that energy always fades. You can't live your life waiting for that spark to strike. The truth is, real progress is built quietly inside a consistent routine. It's the same set of actions repeated so many times that they become part of who you are. That's what separates the disciplined from the distracted. The disciplined have structure, the distracted have feelings. Routine is your anchor. It grounds you when your mind wants to drift. It gives your days shape, your purpose form, and your life rhythm. Without it, your energy scatters. You wake up reacting instead of leading. You chase urgency instead of progress. But when you live by routine, you take control. You know what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and how it should be done. No negotiations, no excuses. The most successful people in every field, athletes, artists, soldiers, entrepreneurs, aren't always the most talented. They're the ones with the most consistent routines. They understand that excellence isn't found in sudden bursts of inspiration. It's forged through repetition. It's doing the same thing day after day with precision and intent. Kobe Bryant didn't practice when he felt motivated. He practiced because it was scheduled. Routine made him unstoppable. Here's the truth most people avoid. Inspiration is unreliable. It's emotional. It depends on mood, weather, sleep, even what someone said to you that morning. But routine doesn't care. Routine doesn't change. Routine is your personal contract with discipline. It's what you do regardless of circumstance. When you build your life around structure instead of emotion, you don't need motivation to move, you're already in motion. If it's on the schedule, it gets done. That's the rule of the disciplined mind. Your schedule becomes sacred. It's your compass when the world feels chaotic. You no longer waste energy deciding what to do each day. You've already decided. You've built systems that make progress automatic. And that's the real secret. Discipline is not about constantly pushing yourself. It's about designing a structure that carries you even when you're tired. Think about this. When your routine is strong, your emotions can't sabotage you. You might feel lazy, anxious, unmotivated, but your routine still moves you forward. It gives you a framework to operate within, a roadmap that keeps you from getting lost in temporary feelings. That's why disciplined people seem calm under pressure. They've built lives that don't depend on emotional weather. Their structure protects their focus. Routine doesn't make you robotic, it makes you reliable. It frees your mental energy for what really matters. You don't waste brain power deciding when to work out, when to read, when to build, when to create. It's already set. You conserve energy for execution instead of decision. That's what creates the compound effect of consistency. Small, scheduled actions, done daily, turn into massive results over time. Most people will never experience their full potential, not because they lack talent, but because they lack structure. They wait for inspiration, and in doing so, they waste years of momentum. But when you build a system, when you decide that your actions are not optional, you remove resistance. You start to realize that discipline isn't about working harder. It's about working predictably. You show up no matter what. And the more you show up, the less you have to think about it. Routine is power disguised as repetition. It's boring to outsiders, but it's the rhythm of mastery. When something is on your schedule, it gets done. There's no debate, no emotional argument, no mental tug of war. That's how professionals separate from amateurs. Amateurs wait to feel ready. Professionals rely on their structure. They've turned consistency into identity. And here's the deeper truth: routine is freedom. It may sound rigid, but it's actually the opposite. It frees you from indecision, from anxiety, from wasted time. You no longer depend on willpower, you depend on the system you built. That's what allows high performers to stay calm in chaos. They know that as long as they follow their structure, progress is guaranteed. You can have goals, vision, even passion, but without a routine, they're just noise. Routine is what transforms ambition into achievement. It's what converts dreams into daily action. And once you commit to it, you'll realize something powerful. You don't need more motivation. You just need better structure. So stop chasing inspiration. Build systems. Design routines so solid that they don't break when you do. Make your actions automatic, your schedule non-negotiable, and your execution predictable. Because at the end of the day, it's not the emotional who succeed, it's the structured. Remember this: if it's on the schedule, it gets done. That's how the disciplined think. That's how the focused live. Build your life on systems, not spurts of motivation. Because when your structure becomes stronger than your emotions, your success becomes inevitable. Routine beats inspiration, every single time. Chapter 5: The Boredom Barrier. Boredom is where motivation dies, but discipline thrives. This is the invisible line that separates the amateurs from the professionals, the dreamers from the doers. Everyone can start with excitement. Everyone can take the first step when it feels new, when the reward feels close, when the energy is high. But only a few can keep walking when the road turns long, quiet, and uneventful. The truth is, boredom isn't the enemy, it's the test. It's the space where growth hides, waiting for you to keep showing up. Think about it. The best athletes, soldiers, writers, or entrepreneurs don't get where they are because they enjoy every second. They get there because they show up, especially when they don't. They've made peace with the dull, repetitive grind that most people run from. They know that greatness isn't built in moments of excitement. It's built in repetition, in silence, in the unglamorous hours where no one is watching. Repetition is mastery. The boring work is the bridge between average and elite. Most people quit not because the work is hard, but because it's repetitive. They crave stimulation, not progress. They want variety more than victory. But progress doesn't care about your feelings, it only cares about consistency. The mind that can endure monotony will always outlast the one that seeks novelty. Because what you repeat, you become. What you practice daily, no matter how dull it feels, becomes your default state. The gym feels exciting the first week. The journal feels fresh for the first 10 days. The business idea feels electric for the first month. But then comes the drop. The boredom. The grind. And this is where most people stop showing up. They think something is wrong because it no longer feels fun. They think they've lost passion. But the truth is, they've just hit the boredom barrier. And the only way through it is through it. The disciplined mind doesn't seek constant stimulation, it seeks results. It knows that mastery lives on the other side of repetition. You will not always be inspired. You will not always be motivated. But you can always be consistent. That's what makes discipline the ultimate advantage. It doesn't need excitement, it creates results. When others chase variety, you build structure. When others look for new tricks, you perfect the basics. Because the basics, done daily, beat brilliance done occasionally. The professional practices fundamentals until they're flawless. The amateur looks for shortcuts until they're stuck. If you want to build something lasting, your body, your career, your mindset, you have to fall in love with the process, not the feeling. The process is not meant to thrill you, it's meant to shape you. Every rep, every page, every early morning, every quiet night, it's sculpting your mind into something sharper, steadier, stronger. You don't need to enjoy it, you need to respect it. Because the work you do when you're bored is the work that builds your future. Discipline thrives in boredom because it doesn't depend on emotion, it depends on decision. Emotion says, I don't feel like it today. Decision says, I'll do it anyway. Every time you act through boredom, you're reinforcing your identity as someone who follows through regardless of mood. You're teaching your brain that comfort isn't the goal, commitment is. You're proving to yourself that you can stay steady even when there's no applause, no excitement, no rush. The truth is, boredom is feedback. It means you've moved past the beginner stage. You've entered the realm of refinement. The work is no longer new, it's necessary. The excitement is gone, but the power is growing. Every repetition is a vote for the person you want to become. And over time, that identity becomes unshakable. Because while others burn out chasing novelty, you're becoming unbeatable through consistency. Look at any master, a pianist, an athlete, a craftsman. Their brilliance looks effortless, but it's built on endless repetition. The same scales, the same drills, the same strokes, over and over long after others have moved on. They don't see boredom as a signal to quit. They see it as a sign they're in the right place. They understand that boredom is the forge of mastery, not the failure of it. So when your mind says, "This again?" smile. You're doing what most won't. You're building what most can't. Every time you face the boredom and stay, you win. Every time you repeat the work, you harden your will. Every time you push through monotony, you separate yourself from the distracted majority. Repetition is mastery. The boring work is the bridge between average and elite. The grind is not punishment, it's proof that you're doing something that matters. If it feels repetitive, it's because you're refining. If it feels dull, it's because you're close to greatness. Keep showing up. Keep doing the work. Don't chase excitement, chase excellence. Because one day, when your results speak for themselves, the same people who quit will ask how you did it. And your answer will be simple: I didn't stop when it got boring. That's the rule that changes everything. The boredom barrier isn't meant to stop you, it's meant to separate you. Cross it and you'll never have to compete with those who couldn't. Repetition is mastery. Say it again. Live it again. Because the ones who master repetition, master everything. Chapter 6. Emotionless execution. You don't need to feel like it, you just need to do it. That's the foundation of every disciplined life, every great achievement, every unbreakable mindset. The world is filled with people waiting to feel ready, waiting for inspiration, waiting for a spark that never comes. But the truth is, emotion is unreliable. It changes by the hour, by the weather, by the mood. If you rely on how you feel, you'll be forever trapped in inconsistency. But if you learn to execute without emotion, to act regardless of mood, you become unstoppable. Emotionless execution is not about being cold. It's about being consistent. It's about removing the emotional debate from the decision-making process. Most people fail not because they can't do it, but because they waste time negotiating with their feelings. They ask themselves, "Do I feel like it today?" The disciplined mind doesn't ask, it acts. Because once you've decided your path, emotions are just noise. And discipline is the volume knob that turns that noise down. No emotion, just execution. That's the mantra of those who win in silence. They don't care if they're tired. They don't care if they're uninspired. They don't care if it's raining or if no one notices. They do it anyway. That's what separates professionals from amateurs. Action without permission from emotion. Because the truth is, feelings are fleeting, but habits are permanent. Every time you act despite emotion, you train your brain to move on command. You turn discipline into reflex. You build automatic resilience. Think of soldiers in combat, athletes under pressure, or surgeons in high-stakes operations. They don't have time to wonder how they feel. Their performance depends on precision, not passion. They've trained to operate under stress, to stay calm when chaos rises, to execute the mission no matter the mood. That's the level of emotional control you need in life. You can't let every flicker of doubt or dip in motivation dictate your moves. Emotionless execution means your actions are driven by commitment, not chemistry. Every morning you wake up, you face two voices, the emotional one that wants comfort and the disciplined one that seeks progress. The first says, "Stay in bed." The second says, "Get up. You have work to do." The first says, "Take it easy today." The second says, "Do it anyway." The more you listen to the disciplined voice, the quieter the emotional one becomes. Over time, execution becomes automatic. You no longer rely on hype or adrenaline, you rely on systems. You no longer act out of emotion, you act out of identity. The great ones don't perform because they feel great. They perform because it's who they are. Their routine doesn't change based on mood, it defines it. They don't chase motivation, they create momentum. That's what emotionless execution gives you. Freedom from your feelings, freedom from hesitation, freedom from inconsistency. Because when your actions are no longer at the mercy of emotion, you control your world. This doesn't mean suppressing emotion, it means not submitting to it. You can feel tired but still train. You can feel fear but still act. You can feel doubt but still move forward. That's real strength. Not avoiding emotion but mastering it. Emotionless execution is about letting feelings exist without giving them authority. They can ride in the car, but they don't get to steer. Every disciplined person reaches a point where emotionless execution becomes natural. At first it's hard. You'll argue with yourself, procrastinate, make excuses. But the more you act without waiting to feel like it, the easier it gets. The brain learns patterns. The body follows training. Eventually, your morning run, your study routine, your grind, it becomes second nature. You don't think about it. You just do it. That's when you know discipline has become identity. Feelings are optional. Effort is not. You don't need to feel brave to take action. You don't need to feel motivated to show up. You don't need to feel confident to perform. The action itself creates the feeling. The more you do, the more belief you build. The less you hesitate, the more powerful you become. Emotionless execution is the bridge between potential and progress. Think about how many dreams have died because someone waited to feel ready. How many goals were abandoned because someone said, "I'm not in the mood." Feelings are temporary storms, they come and go. If your work depends on them, you'll never build anything lasting. But if your work depends on structure, consistency, and execution, you'll move mountains. No emotion. Just execution. That's not coldness. That's control. It's the difference between chaos and command. It's what allows you to stay sharp when everyone else folds. It's what separates the elite from the emotional. The world rewards the ones who show up, especially when they don't feel like it. So next time your mind starts to resist, remind yourself, emotion is just energy. Can fuel you or fool you. You decide how it's used. The goal is not to feel ready, the goal is to be reliable. To move when it's time to move. To execute no matter what. Because discipline without emotion is the most dangerous form of power. It's steady. It's predictable. It's unstoppable. No emotion. Just execution. Say it again until it becomes instinct. Because once you master this, nothing can control you, not fear, not doubt, not exhaustion. You'll no longer depend on the wave of motivation to carry you. You'll become the wave. And that's when everything changes. Feelings fade. Excuses fall. But your actions, your execution, will keep moving forward. And that's what builds empires. Chapter 7. Small wins build giants. Discipline isn't built in a single act of greatness. It's built in the invisible repetitions that no one sees. People love to chase big moments, the breakthroughs, the dramatic transformations. But real growth doesn't work like that. It's quiet, steady, unglamorous. It's found in the small, consistent wins that compound into something powerful. The person who shows up every day, even for 15 minutes, will always outrun the one who shows up once with all their energy and then disappears. Discipline isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. It's about doing what needs to be done, especially when it seems small, insignificant, or unnoticed. Small wins are not just actions, they're signals. Every time you follow through, even on something minor, you send a message to your brain, I can rely on myself. And that message is everything. Confidence doesn't come from motivation, it comes from evidence. Every small win is evidence of control, and control builds belief. When you consistently honor your word to yourself, something shifts inside you. You stop doubting. You stop delaying. You start moving with certainty because you've proven day after day that you'll show up no matter what. Win the day, then win the next. That's how giants are built, not in leaps but in layers. Every day is a brick. Every repetition is a step. Every win, no matter how small, compounds. The mind loves momentum, and momentum is built through repetition, not revolution. You don't need to conquer mountains, you just need to take one steady step at a time. It's not glamorous, but it's powerful. Because once you learn to keep winning small, you stop losing big. Most people quit not because the goal is too far, but because they stop believing their small steps matter. They want fast results, dramatic changes, overnight success. But the truth is, greatness is boring. It's built on days that look exactly the same. It's built on showing up when no one's watching, doing work no one claps for, staying patient while everyone else demands progress now. The disciplined mind understands this truth. Repetition isn't punishment, it's preparation. Every small win is sharpening your edge, building your resilience, and reinforcing your foundation. Real-world examples prove it. The athlete doesn't become great in one game. It's the years of quiet training, the endless drills, the diet, the sleep. The writer doesn't become brilliant overnight. It's the daily pages written in silence. The entrepreneur doesn't strike gold by chance. It's the endless hours refining the craft, adjusting, improving, learning. Every success story is just a pile of small wins that refuse to die. Every giant is just someone who stayed consistent long enough for the world to notice. You can't build strength by waiting for big moments. You build it by mastering the small ones. Waking up when you said you would, keeping your promises, finishing what you start, pushing through the last rep, reading that one extra page, working that one extra hour. Those small victories add up. They build identity. They build momentum. And momentum, once created, becomes unstoppable. Discipline thrives in the micro moments, the seconds where your mind says, not today, and you say, just 5 more minutes. The moments when you could skip, but you choose not to. That's where strength grows. Not when it's easy, but when it's inconvenient. Not when you feel inspired, but when you feel tired. That's when your small wins matter most, because they're forged in resistance. The mind learns through proof. When you keep collecting small wins, you create undeniable evidence of growth. You no longer need external validation. You don't need people to notice. You can feel it in the mirror, in your posture, in your silence. You become grounded, steady, confident, because you've built a foundation on action, not words. And no one can take that from you. Every small win counts, every workout, every page, every step, every choice. Even when it feels like nothing's changing, everything is. Because small wins aren't just progress, they're identity. They remind you that you're the kind of person who follows through, who finishes, who stays. And that identity compounds far beyond motivation ever could. Win the day, then win the next. It sounds simple, but it's the formula for every empire ever built. The day you realize that one small victory can change your entire direction, you stop underestimating the small things. You stop skipping the little tasks. You stop saying, it doesn't matter. Because it all matters. The small wins you collect daily are the reason the big wins ever appear. The secret to unstoppable discipline is this: never let a day go to waste. Even if you can't do it all, do something. Even if it's half the effort, do half. Because half done is still progress, still momentum, still proof that you didn't quit. Every small win compounds like interest. You may not notice the change in a week or even a month, but over time, it transforms everything. So keep winning small. Keep stacking quiet victories. Because one day the world will call you an overnight success, but you'll know the truth, it wasn't overnight. It was built one disciplined day at a time. Small wins build giants. Consistency builds empires. You don't need to be extreme, you just need to be steady. Win today, then win tomorrow. That's how you become unstoppable. Chapter 8. Pain is the proof. Pain, fatigue, and resistance are not signs to stop. They're signs you're leveling up. Every time your muscles ache, your mind tires, or your motivation falters, the world isn't punishing you, it's testing you. Discomfort is not a barrier, it's a signal. It tells you that growth is happening, that your limits are being challenged, and that something new is being forged inside you. The people who succeed are not those who avoid pain. They're the ones who embrace it, understand it, and use it to fuel progress. Pain is proof that you're alive, that you're trying, that you're on the path others are too afraid to walk. Every strong person you admire, athletes, entrepreneurs, soldiers, artists, built their discipline through discomfort. They didn't wait for the easy moments. They didn't seek comfort or convenience. They endured the repetitive grind, the lonely hours, the physical and mental strain, and they showed up again and again. Pain became their teacher, not their enemy. Every ache, every failure, every moment that screamed quit, was actually a moment that built them. That's the secret the average person never understands. Discomfort is a signal that you are on the right path. It is the currency of achievement, the tax you pay for mastery. Pain is not punishment, it's proof. Remember that. Every time you feel resistance, fatigue, or frustration, don't see it as a reason to stop. See it as evidence that you are pushing boundaries. Your body is changing. Your mind is growing. Your resilience is expanding. Each uncomfortable step is adding to the foundation of your strength. It's a subtle reminder that real progress rarely comes wrapped in comfort. Comfort is the trap. Pain is the proof. When you learn to respect it, to lean into it, to act despite it, you transform what others fear into your advantage. Discomfort is unavoidable. Life will not bend to make your journey easy. Challenges will arise, circumstances will shift, and people will test your limits. The unbreakable person doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. They act in spite of them. They know that pain is not a signal of defeat, it's a signal of progress. And the more you move through it, the stronger you become. Every ounce of sweat, every aching muscle, every late night spent grinding, it's all proof that your discipline is real, that your effort is authentic, and that your results are inevitable. Think of it this way: if growth were easy, everyone would have it. Strength, skill, and success are earned in the uncomfortable spaces, in the moments where you want to quit but choose to continue anyway. Pain separates the mediocre from the extraordinary. It reveals who is willing to do what most cannot. And when you stop running from it and start seeing it as a signal of progress, the very thing that once intimidated you becomes your greatest ally. Every time you feel tired or sore, repeat this to yourself: this is proof. I am leveling up. I am building strength. Let pain become the scoreboard that measures your commitment. Let resistance be the mirror that shows how far you've come. When others see obstacles, you see opportunity. When others complain about struggle, you see evidence that you are moving forward. That's the mindset of the unbreakable, the unstoppable, the disciplined. Discomfort will never stop. Fatigue will always come. Challenges will never cease. But neither will your capacity to grow if you choose to embrace them. Pain is proof that you are alive, that you are trying, that you are not settling for mediocrity. Every step through resistance is a step toward mastery. Every time you endure, you gain something that cannot be taken from you. Resilience, strength, confidence, and the certainty that you are capable of more than you think. So remember, pain is not punishment, it's proof. When life gets hard, lean in. When your body screams to quit, keep moving. When your mind doubts, remind yourself that discomfort is the fuel of discipline. Every struggle, every challenge, every test is evidence that you are becoming stronger, sharper, and more unstoppable than you were yesterday. Pain is the proof, and those who embrace it become giants in a world that fears effort. Chapter 9: Self-Respect Through Consistency. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your self-respect grows. It doesn't matter if no one is watching, if the world doesn't applaud, or if the outcome seems small. What matters is that you honor your word. The unbreakable mind understands this principle. Respect is earned internally, not externally. Confidence doesn't come from how others see you. It comes from how faithfully you show up for yourself. Each small action, each commitment followed through, each time you push past hesitation, compounds into a foundation of self-respect that no one can take away. Consistency is the vehicle that transforms promises into proof. Every morning you wake up and do what you said you would, every task completed, every effort made despite fatigue or distraction, you are reinforcing the most important relationship you will ever have, the one with yourself. Most people underestimate the power of follow-through. They talk about goals, aspirations, and dreams, but when it comes to showing up, they falter. The disciplined person doesn't wait for motivation or mood. They act because they've decided that their word matters more than their feelings. That's how self-respect is built. Respect yourself enough to follow through. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Every time you act consistently, you send a message to your mind. You are reliable, capable, and worthy of trust. And when your inner trust grows, everything else aligns. Your confidence no longer depends on external validation, praise, or results. You don't need someone to approve or cheer you on. The proof is in your actions. The daily grind, the repeated effort, the persistence in monotony, that's the language of self-respect. The world may reward results, but your mind rewards consistency. Consistency builds character faster than any success. Achievements can be fleeting, titles can be taken, recognition can fade, but the discipline to honor your commitments to yourself endures. Every consistent action reinforces identity. Every time you show up, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's boring, even when no one is watching, you are telling yourself and your mind that you are someone who does what they say. That is the essence of self-respect. That is the invisible power that drives long-term success. Think of the people you admire most. Behind the achievements, behind the fame, behind the influence, there is always one constant: consistency. They show up. They do the work. They follow through. Not because they are motivated every single day, but because they respect themselves enough to honor their commitments. That is the subtle difference between fleeting success and lasting mastery. Those who master consistency don't need luck or shortcuts. Their self-respect carries them through every challenge. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you chip away at your confidence. Every time you hesitate, procrastinate, or quit, you teach your mind that you are unreliable. But every time you act, every time you keep your word, you reinforce the opposite. You build an unshakable trust with yourself, a core strength that cannot be borrowed or taken away. This is the quiet power that fuels every great accomplishment, every long-term victory, every moment of inner peace. So focus on your follow-through. Focus on showing up, even when it's inconvenient. Focus on doing what you said you would, even if it feels small. Each act of consistency is a deposit in the bank of self-respect. The more you invest, the stronger your identity becomes. The more you honor your word, the more you honor yourself. Self-respect is not given, it's earned, one action at a time. Consistency is the key. The discipline to show up, to act, to follow through, is what separates the people who merely dream from the people who achieve. Remember, respect yourself enough to follow through. Your promises are the measure of your character. Your actions are the proof of your strength. Build it daily, defend it fiercely, and watch as your confidence grows from the inside out, unshakable and unstoppable. Chapter 10: The Law of Unstoppable Discipline. Motivation makes you act once. Discipline makes you act forever. Motivation is a spark. It ignites briefly, it inspires momentarily, but it fades as quickly as it arrives. Discipline, on the other hand, is a furnace. It burns steadily, consistently, and relentlessly regardless of how you feel. The unbreakable, unstoppable person doesn't wait for inspiration or excitement. They move because they have committed themselves to action. Motivation is fragile. Discipline is enduring. One depends on emotion, the other depends on choice. That is the fundamental difference between fleeting effort and unstoppable momentum. The truly disciplined don't rely on motivation. They've replaced it with responsibility. They understand that freedom is found not in waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect feeling, but in taking ownership of their actions no matter what. Responsibility is the anchor that holds discipline in place when distractions, fatigue, and doubt arise. Every time you honor your commitments, even when it's inconvenient, even when you don't feel like it, you are reinforcing that anchor. You no longer depend on motivation because you've built a system that carries you forward regardless. You don't need to feel unstoppable, you just need to act unstoppable. That is the mantra of the disciplined mind. Action precedes feeling. Confidence comes from movement, not mood. Every time you follow through, your brain records proof. You are capable, reliable, and consistent. The more you act, the more unstoppable you become. It is a compounding force. One disciplined choice today makes the next easier, and the next after that inevitable. Discipline is self-reinforcing. The more you practice it, the stronger it grows until it becomes automatic. Think about elite performers, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, leaders. They don't wait to feel motivated. They follow routines, honor schedules, and push forward through resistance. Their secret isn't passion, it's persistent action. They act even when tired, even when uncertain, even when the world seems against them. Discipline replaces mood with momentum. Discipline removes choice from the equation because the action is already decided. It is no longer negotiable. Motivation is optional. Discipline is essential. Unstoppable discipline is also freedom. When your actions are no longer dictated by emotion, when you've trained yourself to move regardless of how you feel, you gain a freedom that others can't touch. You are no longer a slave to your moods, to fleeting inspiration, to external circumstances. You can operate under pressure, under fatigue, under chaos, because your actions do not depend on feeling. You are free because you have internal control, and internal control is the foundation of unstoppable power. Every time you act without waiting to feel ready, you build credibility with yourself. You create proof of reliability. You show your mind that you are trustworthy, that you can be counted on, that your word to yourself is unbreakable. This is how discipline compounds. It becomes identity. You stop asking if you feel like it. You stop wondering if it's convenient. You stop waiting for the mood to strike. You act because that is who you are. You are the kind of person who moves. You are the kind of person who shows up. You are unstoppable. Discipline is not just habit. It is a law of action. It is the force that transforms potential into results. Motivation will come and go, but discipline, once mastered, is eternal. It doesn't need praise, it doesn't need approval, it doesn't need to be seen. It simply functions. And when you live by this law, nothing external can derail you. Challenges become manageable, distractions fade, resistance becomes a signal, not a barrier. Discipline turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results because it is relentless, inevitable, unstoppable. Remember, you don't need to feel unstoppable, you just need to act unstoppable. Build the momentum of action, reinforce it daily, and let it define you. Discipline is the ultimate freedom because it liberates you from the tyranny of mood, the deception of motivation, and the weakness of hesitation. Once you live by this law, you become unshakable. You become reliable, consistent, and unstoppable. You move forward when others pause, persevere when others quit, and achieve when others only dream. Discipline is not just a rule, it is the law of unstoppable life. Motivation will always come and go. Discipline is what stays. The days you act without motivation, that's when you're becoming unstoppable. The workouts you do when you're tired. The work you finish when you're bored. The goals you chase when no one's watching. That's where the real transformation happens. You don't need motivation anymore, you need standards. You don't need hype, you need habits. You don't need to feel ready, you need to be relentless. Every action without emotion builds discipline. Every disciplined day builds a new version of you. This is your challenge. Stop chasing the feeling. Start chasing the follow-through. Because motivation moves you for a moment, but discipline moves you for life. This is the rule that changes everything.